Hello and welcome back again. Today I'm going to be talking about listening. Yesterday we talked about reading, and there's going to be a couple little similarities, a couple of things similar in what we talk about today, because some of the tips, strangely enough, although it's a completely different discipline of English, I mean listening and reading are very different, there are some things which we're going to do quite similarly so that we can hopefully improve our scores. Okay, starting off, let's have a look at the overall of the test, and I'll just wipe that down too far. There we go. 40 questions in four sections. Now we all know that, you've all done your mock tests and things like that. 10 questions per section. Usually in this case it gets harder and harder as it goes through. So part one is usually pretty simple. It's just normal everyday listening to a conversation of two people organising something. A lot of numbers, so get your mind ready for numbers in this case. Section 2, usually one person, maybe two people talking, describing something, a tour, or taking someone for a walk around the library or a museum, something like that. Or talking about maybe something of interest that they've done. Climbing Mount Everest is one that I've heard before, describing that experience. The next one is usually a conversation on an academic level between a couple of students, or maybe two students and a lecturer or a professor, two students and a librarian, or maybe just one student and a professor. So you're going to have to get used to, in that case, usually 3 voices, but it's not that difficult because it'll be 2 younger voices, one male, one female, and the lecturer will usually have an older voice, kind of like mine, a little bit gruff, like that. So you'll be able to understand the difference between the 3 voices fairly easy. And the last one, the last section, of course, is a monologue. That is a lecture, one person talking on a particular subject, usually relatively academically based. Remember though, that the listening test is a general test, so there's nothing too academic there. All right, at the end of the test, you get 10 minutes to complete an answer sheet. That's important. We'll come back to that later. And in between your listening, there are breaks to check your answers and to read ahead, and that again is very important. Now, unlike TOEFL and TOEIC, where you listen, then write your answers, in IELTS, remember, you've got to write your answers as you're going. And we'll talk about a couple of tips and hints about that as well as we go on. All right, let's move along. Preparation is very important. For the listening test. It's important for all of them. For the speaking test, you've got to speak a lot. And I know I've spoken to probably some of you in mock tests about the fact that you should be speaking every day in English to make sure you improve. Same as reading every day, writing every day, listening every day. And there's a couple of things that you can do here to help you. ESL podcast is very good. There's lots and lots and lots of different subjects. They've been going for many years. 6 Minute English, BBC. You just put these into Google and you'll find them. Don't use Naver, use Google, and Google will take you straight to them. 6 Minute English is very good. As I say, it's only about 6 minutes long, so you're not going to be sitting there for half an hour listening. But you want to listen to it 2 or 3 times, so you get used to it. And another very good one, whoops, wasn't supposed to touch that then. We'll just bring that back again. Come on, there we go, sorry about that. We come back to the other one was CNN Student News. Why did I pick these two? Well, this one's got British English coming out of England, and this is American coming out of America, and you get used to the different accents. And that's very, very, very important for the IELTS test. Now, listen to English a lot before the test. Do so. even on the day of the test and the day before the test, you want to be listening to English. You want to hear it so your mind, so your brain is recognizing English. You want to speak Korean as little as possible, especially on the day of the test. You really need your brain hearing English. Because remember, the listening test is the first test. And unless you're ready for it, it can be very, very, very difficult. So working very hard to get your mind ready for the listening test. Okay. The test itself. When you come to do a listening test, the first thing, it's very important to read the questions carefully. As soon as you can open that booklet, start reading the questions. As soon as you can open it. Now, we all know at the beginning of a listening test, there is what they call an example question. And they do the first 20 or 30 seconds of the recording, and they give you a sample answer on your listening form. You don't have to listen to that, because you know it's there. So during that time, you should be reading. Okay? And then when the sample answer's over, and they get into the listening proper, you can start listening then. And the first question won't be for a little while, because they'll go through the sample answer first, and then into your first question. So you'll have a little bit of time to listen before you're writing answers. And that's always good, because that gets yourself listening again. Predict answers. This is important. Listen to the introduction at the beginning of each section. You'll hear a recording of one man speaking to a hotel owner and organising a room to stay for his family for 3 nights. So you've got context. You know what the listening is going to be about. That way, you can actually start thinking about what things are going to go where and what the answers might be. Now, obviously, you can see an address. Well, you're going to be listening for an address. There's going to be a number probably and a word. 14 John Street. Phone number. You know it's going to be about 8 to 10 letters long, or 8 to 10 numbers long, sorry. A Visa card or a credit card number. It's going to be 16 numbers long. You can start predicting what you're going to write down. Check for the word class of an answer. Some answers, as you know, are actually written in words. Short answer questions, sentence completion, summary completion, those type of answers. You can start to think about what the word's going to be, but the first thing is to predict the word class. Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adjective? Is it an adverb? But how do I know? Well, if there's an article before it, a or the, or a determiner, many, few, then it's going to be a noun. If it's got to in front of it, to, well, it's going to be a verb. If it's got is, a be verb before it, it's going to be an adjective. If it comes directly before a noun, it's going to be an adjective. So, and if it comes at the end of the sentence, after the noun, it's probably going to be an adverb. So you can start to predict the sort of words that you've got to write down. And you can make a little note on your answers, on your question sheet. You know, N for noun, AD for adverb, AD for adjective, ADV for adverb. That way, you know what you're listening for and what's coming. Listen for context, not just keywords. Keywords can help you, but only to a point. The problem with keywords is half the questions can be answered with keywords. The other half, well, keywords can often be the wrong answer, because that's for the people who listen in context, for people that get 6 and higher. And you have to listen to the context of what's being said. You have to understand what's being said, and you'll get your answers. I'll give you an example. In many multiple choice questions, they'll use exact key words for the wrong answers, but they'll use a paraphrase for the correct answer. And that way, you need to know the context so you can understand the paraphrase. And this is why you need to do a lot of listening beforehand, so you can get used to listening and understanding what you're listening. Understanding is very important. Keep looking forward, never look back. That's not strictly true. In the breaks, you can look back, but only for a little bit. During the listening, whilst you're actually listening, you only ever look forward, never look back. And I'll cover that in a minute. Let's move on. The breaks. Okay, I said to you before that you get some breaks in between your listening to give you time to check your answers, to give you time to read ahead. In the middle of each of the first three sections, there's about a 15 to 30 second break, depending on the number of questions that you've got after the break. So for example, if you've already done questions 1 to 7, there's only three answers left, they might give you a 15-second break. But if you've got 4 or 5 or 6 answers to go, like you've only done questions 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, then you've probably got, about a 30-second break, to check back on your answers. But if you're happy with your answers, don't keep reading them, read forward, okay? Read ahead in the breaks. Read ahead. Use that time. You don't have to read back. If you're happy with your answers, great. Read ahead. Get to know what's coming. At the end of each section, there's another break to check back on your answers or to read ahead. Well, the middle breaks, read ahead. The end breaks, you can check back. But if you don't need to check back again, read ahead, go into the next section. So only ever check back if you need to. Other than that, always looking forward. Okay? Listening is very important, that you keep moving forward. Remember though, in part 4, section 4, there's no break. It's straight through. You need to concentrate for about 5 or 6 minutes, and that can be really hard. So make sure you're ready for that. Make sure you've got your mind right, saying, right, now I have to concentrate now for 5 minutes. There's only going to be a short, about 3 or 4 second break in the middle, so you can turn your page to the next questions. Make sure that you have yourself ready for that, and don't be waiting for a break, because you're not going to get it. They will give you a minute at the beginning to read through all the questions. Use that time well and read all the questions. Hopefully, you've already been reading from the end of part 3, because instead of listening to too much, and instead of checking back, you've moved forward and you're reading ahead. Always familiarise yourself with what's coming. Now, just a quick little tip. When you're doing multiple choice, so you've got the STEM question and you've got choices A, B, C, don't read the choices. Read them when you're listening. If you try and read all those when you're actually in that reading section, it's too many. And 2 of them are wrong anyway. And so if you're putting circles around key words, you could be putting a circle around the wrong answer, and you could trigger yourself to do a wrong answer, and that's no good. No, what you have to do is you need to read the choices as you're listening, and remember the STEM question, that's the main question, and just answer that, and you'll see the answer there. Okay? So don't read all of your multiple choice at the beginning in the reading time. Just read the STEM questions, understand the STEM questions. All right, in the breaks, please do not fill out your answer sheet. Do it at the end. That's really important. You've got plenty of time. You've got 10 minutes. It's a lifetime for some. It's a long, long time. So use the time well. Okay? Read ahead. Don't fill out your answer sheet. Not yet. All right, some more tips. When you're filling out your question sheet as you're listening, don't worry about spelling errors. You can fix your spelling up later. Don't worry about grammatical errors. You can fix your spelling, your grammar up later at the end of the test when you've got 10 minutes to worry about it. Okay? If you worry about spelling while you're trying to listen, you're going to miss the next question. And that's no good. You have to make sure you hear and attempt every question. If you miss an answer though, it's gone. That's it. It's gone. Don't try and remember what it is. Don't try and think about it. Keep listening. The next one, the next one, the next one. Don't worry about what's gone. It's past, it's finished, you've lost it. You're going to make mistakes. Okay? Everyone makes mistakes in the listening test. Not everybody gets a 9. So when you're listening, if you miss an answer, forget about it. Later on, you can go back and you can check that answer, or you can guess that answer. All right? Like in the reading, never leave a blank space, take the 1% chance. Blank space, 100% chance being wrong. You've got at least some chance of it being correct. Take that chance. Now, write neatly on your answer sheet, please. Don't be messy, because a marker has to read your writing. And if you're a messy writer and they can't read it properly, chances are you're going to get it wrong, even if it's right, because they couldn't read it. I see this all the time in our mock tests. People, they write things out really quickly, and you look at it and you go, I don't understand that. And you've got to give them a wrong answer, because it can't be read. So please, always writing neatly on your answer sheet. Very, very important. Now, some traps. This is where you have to be careful. Beware of the distractor. Distractors, like in reading, are those things that take us away from the right answer, and they're used a lot in listening. So for example, if we've got a multiple choice question and it says something like, what animals will Johnny see at the zoo tomorrow? And you've got the choice of lion, elephant, giraffe. And so the talker says, look, tomorrow at the zoo, when you visit, it's going to be a wonderful day. We were going to have an elephant on display, but unfortunately he's sick. The lion, though, will be there for everyone to see. But what's really exciting is we've got a new giraffe coming on the next day after. So what's the answer? Well, the answer's lion. See, the elephant's not going to be on display tomorrow for Johnny to see. It's sick, so it's not going to be on display. And the giraffe can't be on the display because it's not coming until the next day after Johnny was at the zoo. It's still coming. And so their distractors, the elephant and the giraffe, are trying to distract you from the right answer. Listen carefully. Don't write down the first thing you hear. You'll sit there and write down elephant, and then you realise it's wrong, so you have to rub that out or scribble that out, and then you're going to write lion. And then you're going to sit there and think, oh, hang on, they're mentioning giraffe, and you start writing giraffe. You have to listen to the whole thing, think about what the answer is, think, it's lion. Oh, they're mentioning giraffe, but hang on, that's not until the next day. Then you write down lion. It saves you time, it saves you effort, and you're not constantly writing, so you can concentrate more on listening. Now this next part is directly related to your answer sheet. Remember in earlier I said that you don't have to worry about your spelling and your grammar on the actual answer, on the question sheet. Well, that's true, and you should get things on your question sheet as quickly as you can. In fact, you can even write Korean on your question sheet. That's not a problem at all, as long as you get it across to your answer sheet after the test. Once you get it across your answer sheet after the test, though, you must check your spelling and grammar. You must, because if you get your spelling and grammar wrong, you'll get the actual question wrong. And this happens to many people, and it's really sad because they could have got a much higher score, and they don't, because obviously the question's wrong. And if they do it with 3 or 4 questions, that can be a difference between a 6 and a 7. And so, you really have to be careful of your spelling and your grammar. So make sure you check your spelling. Become good at spelling. Read a lot. Write a lot. Become good at spelling. Grammar. Make sure you understand your grammar rules. Make sure you understand plurals. When to write a plural, when to write singular. If there's many in the question, or few in the question, it's got to be a plural. If it's general, it's going to be a plural. If it's specific and you've got the article a, then it's a singular. Okay? So make sure that you find out all the rules for plurals and singulars so that you don't get this grammar wrong. Finally, when you're filling out your answer sheet, you must make sure you have all the answers in the correct space. Again, like in reading, people get it wrong. They go question 1, 1, 2, 2, but then they might think, oh, there's no answer in 3, I'll come back to that. I'll go to 4, but then when they write the answer to 4 in the space for 3. And by the time they fill everything out and realise they've made a mistake, time's up. And that's it. Your test has been ruined. So you must go 1, 1, 2, 2, 3. Oh, no question. Guess. Get an answer in there straight away. Okay? And that way you won't miss any blank spaces. You should not have any blank spaces. If you have blank spaces, then you can't get that answer right. If you can't get that answer right, you're already limiting the score. All right, just to recap a little bit, always looking ahead, never looking back, always making sure that if you miss an answer, you forget about it, you move on. They're the very simple rules of the listening test. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and hopefully you can do well in your test. And I'm sure you will if you study hard, you listen a lot, you read a lot, you write a lot, and you speak a lot. All of it is going to help you in the listening test. Have a great day, and I'll come back with some general IELTS tips in the next lesson. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.